Welcome to the Pro Aging Podcast. I'm Steve Gurney, founder of the Positive Aging community. We're thrilled to have you join us for interactive discussions with pioneers and thought leaders on a wide variety of topics related to aging and longevity. These insightful discussions and the Positive Aging Sourcebook are brought to you thanks to the support from our Positive Aging community champions. Visit proaging.com to connect with them and discover hundreds of valuable other resources. We're excited to have you with us today, so let's jump into an engaging Positive Aging live and interactive discussion. Wow, I am really excited today to be here with Jill Greenbaum, and we're going to talk about end of life and appreciating life every day. And Jill, I can't wait to talk about this, and I can't believe that I'm saying I can't wait to talk about end of life, but I've had a tremendous life change over the years. But Jill, before we dive into this important topic, let's get to know you a little bit better. You've got a really interesting and unique background.
Sure thing. Well, long story short, I used to be an educator many years ago. I was a teacher, principal, and administrator in New York City public schools, always working in settings for children with special needs. And so I am an educator at heart. I live it, eat it, breathe it still. It's a part of everything I do. And my doctorate's in curriculum development. So I love to learn things and make things and share them with other people. And so I've spent most of my life doing that in one capacity or another. And my work now is really an outgrowth of things I've learned along the way and what's important to me at this point in my life.
Great. And I imagine that it's taken a turn towards end of life and appreciating life every day. And that's the topic we're talking about today. So share with us some of the insights that you've gained, and maybe we can have a little conversation around this.
Absolutely. Oh gosh, there's so much to talk about, as you said. And so I think it really comes out of work that I did when I was in college and studying Martin Seligman's work. He's first studied learned helplessness and how people respond after a tragedy, and that's in a variety of ways. He went on to study optimism and happiness and flourishing, and I always followed his work. And so the background of positive psychology is the background for what I do. So appreciating life comes out of the positive psychology movement. And a lot of people are unclear as to what that means. And they think, oh, it just means feeling happy all the time and putting blinders on. And in fact, appreciative inquiry, which is the type of facilitator that I am now, is a field in which we look at everything and we choose where to focus our attention. And so an example might be from an author named Jackie Kelm, who's written a great book around appreciative living, is that we imagine that we're in a theater and there are the curtains there. And if we open up just one side and everything is positive and wonderful and we forget about everything else, we're only seeing half of what's there. If we close that and open up only the negative side, we are really living into the parts of our brain that keep us safe. And so the important piece here is to recognize, yes, we need to know danger and we need to think about what we're seeing and really assess it. So the reality is we close that side, we open both sides up at the same time and choose where we put the focus of our attention. And so that's the backdrop for everything I do. And I believe in appreciating life every single day and looking for joy because we will find what we look for.
Man, I've never heard this term appreciative living, but I love it. And I also like how you described the theatrical performance with the curtain and only happy thoughts or what have you, or happy scenes. And when you think about it, when we go to a performance or you watch a show on Netflix and it's all happy, like that, what are those, the Hallmark, movie, or it's all really dark, like those are not necessarily authentic. Like a lot of times it's sort of like, I didn't like it. It was too, but reality, a balance, all of our lives has this narrative arc that goes up and down, and appreciating that, I think is really important. Wow.
Yeah. You're so right, Steve. If I might just add to that, is that sometimes we envision it, as I was just talking with a friend yesterday, about it being a roller coaster. As you were talking about, one day is this, another is that, or the seasons of our lives. The reality is, and this was a meme that I saw just recently, that grief and joy can exist, they can coexist. Right in the same day, we can experience just a multitude of emotions, and we need to feel them all, because if we shut one down, we're going to shut down everything.
Yeah, and I think, one of we when we come out of a grieving process,
Mm-hmm.
that that feeling is more appreciated
Mm-hmm.
because were we were on the lower end of that roller coaster.
Yeah,
If everything is just always hunky dory and we don't take any risks and this, that, and the other, we don't get to truly appreciate the highs and lows.
right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, tell me, like, let's kind of dive into this, like and a little bit more into your background. How do
Sure.
you help people or organizations with this, and maybe give us a glimpse at what that looks like, or some tips that I might be able to use in my own life?
Absolutely. And so I also happen to be a chaplain in the Zen Buddhist tradition. And I did my internship at a local hospital during COVID. And I used my skills as a graphic facilitator, a person who draws what people are saying or thinking or planning or questioning, to help people understand what was going on, and to help myself understand and to process what was happening. And so at that time, I used those skills to help a team on the palliative care in the palliative care department help patients understand what they were experiencing and what their choices were, and palliative care versus hospice. So that was my first foray into thinking about end of life and supporting people. I then realized, because of my interest in end of life, that we have so many choices of which we're unaware. And this is just one of my passions, is to help people understand all of that. And so one of the things I created, gosh, here it is right now. It's a zine. So it's a cute little booklet. And this is a booklet on how to create your own visual obituary.
Huh.
Sometimes we think of writing our obituaries and, like a life review, what are the highs and lows, but really giving it context and understanding and reflecting ourselves and our values. And so, because I like to draw in addition to write, I created a process where people can do this with me if they're in an organization, or I speak often at conferences, or they can do it on their own. And so this little zine is the outgrowth of that, so people can get this and they can plan how to do this on their own. And these are just ideas. Nothing is prescriptive.
Yeah, well, number one, I'll add the link in the with the recording so people can get that. But
Mm.
what I like is that you're introducing here is, I think one of the problems, or one of the challenges with end of life planning, is there's sort of there's these traditions, and there's Hollywood too. It's sort of like, oh, I'm going to a memorial, got to wear all my black clothing, and we
Right.
have to prepare this written obituary for, the Washington Post or New York Times. And what I love is when people like yourself give us permission to think outside the box. It's sort of like, I was just at a memorial where the request was, do not wear black, wear anything but black, wear
Yeah.
colorful clothing. And
Right.
the idea of, hey, your obituary could be a artist, it could be a piece of art, it could be multiple pieces of art, it could be a recording, it could be a video. Like, you can choose this, and that uniqueness is going to be as unique as us or the loved one that we're remembering. um,
Exactly.
and and
It,
and before you comment, I have to compliment you on the breadth uh, of your career. An educator, a chaplain, an artist, and graphic. What do you call it? Graphic
Facilitator, right? To
facilitator.
make things
Um,
easy.
and combining all these things to help us and
Mhm.
individuals with how to live our life, and how to how to be remembered when our life ends is really cool.
It is cool. And there is the visual obituary. And I think that probably came out of my work during my chaplaincy training when I needed to create a visual of my lineage. And so I know you're not going to see any of the
Yeah.
details, but I took the metaphor of a tree, and this contains pictures of my biological family, my chosen family, my circle of friends, all my education, my volunteer work, my work out in the world. And so is blown up large in my own home. So it's
Yeah.
18 by 24. And everyone that's a part of this has been told by me, like, I've included you in this. And so to your point of we've been told do X, Y, or Z, or we've experienced and we haven't looked beyond that, right? Maybe we haven't been told in words, but the reality is that we can make our funerals or our life celebrations even before we die, if that's what we want. If we want to bring everybody together before we die, we can do that in any number of ways. Throw a party for ourselves. So there are just all kinds of choices out there that people are not aware of. And that's my educator coming out and my desire to
Hmm.
inform people.
I love the graphic that you shared, the tree. I mean, I can tell even at a distance and it's small how beautiful that is. And I imagine on a wall in your home,
Mm,
it's stunning and it's a conversation piece. And one of the things about that in particular is one of the main topics we talk about related to end of life is what to do with our stuff.
mm,
Is that our loved ones come into our home after we've passed away and they have to figure out where all this stuff goes. Now, if I'm willing to bet that if we made a list of all the stuff that you have and
mhm.
that image on your wall is one of those pieces of stuff, everybody is going to want a copy of it. And
Yeah.
the beauty is you can give them all a copy. They could make it bigger, smaller. It could be a postcard right now, and everybody's appreciating it, and that's very cool.
Yeah, it is. And you're so right. There is so much to think about before we die. And it can feel big and overwhelming. And I will say for myself, I don't share this with people unless I've started working with them because I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed. It's hard enough to approach this, right? Because people think that if we start talking about dying and death, that it's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging. And I'm not going to lie, there's a lot to think about. And yet the end result is a feeling of peace and knowing what your plan is and people not having to make decisions for you. I mean, this is the gift you give to your family.
Hmm.
Because I've talked with her, and there's a range of thoughts out there. Some people are like, I'm dead. People can decide whatever it is that they want,
Yeah.
to you have to do it completely my way and you cannot deviate. I tend to fall in the middle because I think this involves all of my immediate circle. And so I want to have the conversations. I want them to understand what I'm thinking and for us to be in agreement. Because the
Hmm.
worst thing would be to leave decisions to be made by people who feel unclear and worried and concerned. And they should be spending their time grieving and integrating our relationship to continue it over time and not to be forgotten. But I will say what I was referring to was this is another visual, which, as I said, I don't share with people right off the bat
Yep.
because these are the things that you need to be thinking about and doing before you die.
Mm.
Right? You need to have all the legal and the financial in place. And that is important, not my area of interest or expertise, but mine is all these other pieces, the decisions, the conversations, what kind of music you want, what's your playlist for your celebration of life or your funeral, who do you want to be there, or even, and if I may, may I share a visual with you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Terrific. So this is a visual, and of course I have permission to use this. And it is a colleague of mine. I'm going to put on my glasses to make sure that I'm seeing it clearly as I share it with you. All right. And so this is a colleague of mine, and this is a procedure that I do with people. And by that, I mean, I create an experience in which, oops, let's see, in which I ask people a series of questions. And starting in the upper left-hand corner, this is my colleague, Susan. And
Hmm.
I say to her, in the final months and weeks of your life, should you have a choice, and hopefully you do, as many Americans now are not dying in the hospital, the greater
Hmm.
majority outside, where do you want to be? And she was like, I want to be on the Eastern Shore. I want to be in my studio. I want to be able to look out the window. Who do
Hmm.
you want to be with you? And will you have what you might nicely call a gatekeeper?
All right.
Someone who is aware of who's coming in, who's visiting, how long are they staying? Who do you want to be with you? And Susan named her family members, her children.
Hmm.
What kind of space do you want people to enter when they come to visit you? Because some people may be hesitant to come and visit you.
Hmm.
And so, and so she said, I want to create a casual yet a sacred space where
Hmm.
there's music playing, there's flowers, there's candles, there's food. And so as we move clockwise around the drawing, you see all these things. And then in addition, there's going to be my sketchbook and my drawings and a slideshow and cushions for people to sit on. And
Hmm.
then in the bottom left-hand corner, I want a special ceremony. She too is Buddhist, and she would like a special ceremony and people to be there and her guiding teacher. And her final thought was, do not weep for me.
Hmm.
And so I work with people individually in a process of preparing them with a series of questions that are just a prompt and a jumping off point. And they decide what they want their world to be like to the best of their ability. And then I draw it. And then
Well,
we talk.
so I love this, and I love something that you said earlier is that, the legal documentation, and that's not my area of passion. My area of passion is the conversations and this, that, and the other. And this is another, I don't want to call it a tradition, but it's another aspect that I think we have wrong. And I shouldn't say wrong because everybody's different, but what we are accustomed to is everybody saying, "Oh, have you done your estate planning? Have you met
Mhm.
with an estate planning or an elder law attorney? Do you have your advance directives?" The fact is that if this individual that you did this with had none of that legal documentation done, okay, and they met with you and they had a deep enough conversation to create a graphic like this,
Mhm.
they're going to breeze into the lawyer's office, and number one, they're not going to be paying the lawyer $500 an hour to ask them a bunch of end of life questions. And if they do, they know the answers to them versus because they've given this thought, they've given it conversation. And I'd like, like you, we excuse me, we need to promote more
Mhm.
talk about end of life because it's only going to make that very hard legal estate planning very difficult. I also joke that nobody is going to hold on. Nobody wants my advance directive when I'm gone, like as a memento or anything like that. But this right here, this is something that if you have a large family, they're going to fight over this document, but they don't need to because you can throw it on a copier or send them a PDF.
Right. And you're absolutely right. And what I find is because it is challenging to have these kinds of conversations often with family members and friends, because we may be ready, but they may not be ready,
Yep.
is that if we have an artifact, if we have a printout in front of us, we can both be looking at it as opposed to looking at each other. It reminds me of, with my teenage daughter, when we had something big to discuss, we'd be in the car, I'd be driving, and we'd both be looking at the front windshield because eye contact was hard.
I agree. I like just looking at this image. I understand, and it if your friend was here, I would be Susan. I would be able to. Um, I have questions that I'd have to
Of
ask
course.
of her, and this is great. Wow. I love this. This is new and unique, and I've never had somebody sort of present
Mhm.
this sort of visual option for folks, not
Mhm.
for everybody, but
Right.
but but building the awareness of this. All right.
Absolutely. It can certainly be a written document. It can move in so many directions. And I have to give credit where it's due. I did not come up with this idea myself. I listened to a colleague who from Thailand who worked with doctors and volunteers to increase communication between patients and volunteers. So she trained volunteers to draw what patients were saying, to share it with doctors so there would be better communication. And a
Wow.
few colleagues in North America, both the US and Canada, have come together for the past almost 5 years now to develop this process and other tools that will help people have easier conversations.
I love it. This is just a great resource. And I'll make sure to have your links so that if folks want to follow up with you, learn more, have you as a speaker, what have you. Man, the time has just flown. I mean, we've been talking for over 30 minutes,
Oh my
but
gosh.
yeah, what are like is there anything else that you would like to share? In fact, like before we turned on this recording, you were sharing with me another graphic image. Is I think is a
Yes,
postcard that I thought
absolutely.
was could be a real cool conversation piece. Yeah. Okay.
And there it is. I have it here. And these are things that I hand out because I think it's so important for people to understand that we plan for so many things in our lives as drawn here, right? For birth and schooling, celebrations, vacations, work, life partners, and families. And yet, what we rarely plan for in its fullness or entirety is end of life because we think it's going to be big and scary and hard. And the reality is, we've all done hard things in our lives, and we usually don't do them by ourselves. We have an inner circle, we have supports in the community, we find people that will help us. And the end result is feeling greater peace and calm and knowing that you have done this for yourself and you have done this for the people that you care for.
Hmm. And as I'm looking at this graphic that goes from birth to end of life, and there's all these elements in between, school, vacations, work, potential life partners, friendships, like all of these things that we plan for. Well, there's only two guarantees on this image, and that's birth, if we are born. I mean, it's not a guarantee till we're breathing, but if we are alive, then it's a guarantee that we're going to die. And I think that one could argue that and I've heard phrases like this is that, well, I'm just going to let life take its course. Whatever happens, happens. I don't want to think about that, talk about that, because you're right, Steve. It's guaranteed. So I'm just going to let it happen naturally. And somebody with that approach is, if you go back to the beginning of this image on birth, is think about when somebody recognizes that they're pregnant and they are going to be bringing life into this world. That is probably the amount of planning, the amount of thought, the amount of training that we put into this. Is is amazing. And if we could just replicate a portion of that for our end of life planning, again, just because you're pregnant doesn't mean that baby is going to be born, but you still think about it and you prepare and you eat right and you think about the contingencies. Thinking about it in that way. I know it's hard for a lot of us. It was hard for me before I had dozens and dozens of conversations like this.
Yeah. Yes. And and the reality is, to your point, when you have conversations, it's not just one and done. It's not just one conversation. Because quite honestly, and this is the educator piece again coming out, laws change. I live in the state of New York and we're facing some changes in our laws now, I'm happy to say. And opportunities for burial have changed dramatically over the past 10 years. And people don't know because it's not on their radar, right? And they don't want to think about it. And yet I've personally shifted from the plan to be buried with my parents to be buried in a green burial site near where I grew up, which is so in alignment with who I am and who my family was and
Hmm.
what I think is important for myself and for this earth. And so we have choices we don't even know about. And that's what I love about this process is that it's ever evolving.
Now, the I guess I'm going to definitely have you back on, and we're going to dive into a lot of these. But the other thing that I like about this graphic is that, and how we started this conversation. end of life and appreciating life every day is that when I look at this graphic, um, and it's actually backwards, you know, that if
Yeah.
we plan, like, so we've got the fact that we plan for, we're having a baby, my that baby's going to go to college, we're going to have birthday parties, I that baby is going to get it's going to get married and it's going to have a great job and they're going to go on vacations and, you know, and all this, like, those are all the things that we plan for. But actually, if you reversed it, and if
Mhm.
you only plan for one thing, and
Mhm.
that is our the end, uh,
Mhm.
it's going to amplify what we do up to the point where that ends,
So true.
and that's what I love about these conversations.
Yeah, totally agree. It gives you a new lens for looking at your life.
Hmm. No, that's great. Jill, I am, it's an honor to meet you. Your unique background is, I, I really appreciate it. I mean, just this brief conversation with you has made me think differently
Mhm.
about end of life and options that I didn't know exist around visuals,
Mhm.
and looking at it differently. I hope that the people that are listening and viewing this have had the same effect, and also consider reaching out to you, and if they've got a bias towards visuals. I mean, this just, the fact that you've got somebody that can help you in this area is great.
Absolutely. And it is also something where a process where they can write their own answers. I can write their answers. So it's not because a lot of people are just like, I don't know if I want it made into a picture. I don't know if I want to learn to do this. Maybe I want to learn to draw this. I mean, there are so many ways to go with it. The bigger picture is, are we talking about it? Are we making this normal
Hmm.
conversation? That's my goal.
I love it. All right. Well, till the next time we talk, Jill, thank you for your time today, and keep up the good work and keep on learning and helping people learn. I love that as a life mission.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You bet.